Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So we have a great webinar today. It is an extremely popular one. We've got almost 300 people signed up for this particular webinar. AI in SEO. We've got that sensationalist line, the choice between growth and decline, but we are noticing, quite big shifts in how people are starting to search for whether it's purchases in a consumer world or in the work world, whether you're looking for software tech or certain things. We're not just doing it necessarily in Google anymore. And so this is going to be a very interesting webinar on how AI is impacting SEO. My name's Simon. You might have seen me before, whether it's an in-person event or talking on these webinars. I always let people know I love chocolate and cider, but the decent stuff. So if you ever need to bribe me, you absolutely can. And obviously, you probably, if you do know me by now, you know that I like trying new things, different things in marketing. Hence all these topics that we will talk about, AI and SEO. We did employee generated content last week with Dutch Barn Vodka and so forth. So I love all the new stuff in marketing. We have Charlie with us today, so don't feel like I'm going to be talking to you about AI and SEO because that would be a disaster. Charlie, I can see you've just joined us. See if you can say hello.
Hey Simon, hey
Lovely.
everyone.
Thank you. So I will hand over to Charlie in a little bit, and I will let her introduce herself and Exposure Ninja because I will do her a disservice. So anyway, Charlie, but thank you in advance for doing this with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having
me. So a little bit of housekeeping. It will be around 45 minutes. It might go on longer. You might have loads of questions. Charlie might cover everything, or she'll probably blow your mind and you'll think, oh my God, what am I left to do? But in the webinar platform, you've got a questions area. So top right, you should see questions or chat. So if you can submit those questions throughout, I will then collate them at the end and I can put all of those questions to Charlie in the Q&A at the end. It will be recorded, so don't feel like you've got to scribble every note down because the session we recorded, we will send you the recording and you will be emailed a copy of the slides that you see today. So sit back, enjoy it, take some notes of the pertinent pieces that Charlie gets across, and as I say, submit the questions, please, because the engagement at the end is always really, really good to have. Before we start, I thought it would be remiss of me not to tell people who Spotler are for the non-customers on this webinar, but we're a marketing automation platform. We have offices across Europe, but in the UK, we're in Guildford, sunny Guildford today. Offices in The Hague, Utrecht, and Germany, in Berlin, Hamburg. We also have presence in Spain and in the Nordics. But we have thousands of users sending thousands and billions of messages a year across our platform, whether it's email, social media messages, employee created content, whether it's WhatsApp messages, SMS, website personalization, billions of messages going out that our customers are using our product for. I always thought it's good to let you know what we're trying to do, and this is always kind of one of those not awkward bits, but mission statement of empowering professionals, marketing professionals with the tools they deserve to make an impact. And I always think, God, that's quite wordy. What do we mean by that? We generally mean we're either trying to make marketers save money or make money. We'll get to that a little bit later, but you're either in the e-commerce world, we're trying to help you get more cart checkouts. In the B2B world, we're trying to help you get more meetings booked, get more leads. On the converse of that, saving the money, not sending those offers out to people that are for products that are being returned back. In the B2B world, you obviously don't want the demos or the pricing requests or so forth from companies, from people that don't meet your ICPs. We have a number of products in the tech stack. So whether it's a customer data platform, a site search software for the e-commerce part of our offering, or the CRM with email marketing and say events for our B2B part of the offering. We have a number of options for anybody looking for a multi-channel marketing automation platform. I thought I'd just show you a little bit about what it looks like, but those screenshots are probably so small you can't see them. With the tech software as a service, we also offer support, UK support, whether it's phone, live chat, email. You get account management. Email is still a big part of what marketers do, so we make sure deliverability is core to what we are offering. And just in case you don't have the resource or the time to do it, we also offer professional services. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but hopefully, if you have a look at Trustpilot, you'll see the number of positive reviews. Also, somewhere we can do a little bit better, but on a whole, hopefully, between hundreds of positive reviews, and the same on G2, depending on where you're looking at. So that's Spotler. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Charlie, and she is going to tell us all about AI within the context of SEO, and I am sure we're going to have a list as long as our arm after this. So Charlie, over to you.
So the AI search revolution. Two main ways that AI is changing search. The first is answering questions with AI overviews directly in Google's search results, in the same search results you're used to, the 10 blue links. Secondly, the growth of AI generated chatbots. And I mean by that, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Grok, DeepSeek, Claude, Google Gemini, all of those. In this presentation, I'm mostly going to talk about ChatGPT because at the moment it's the most dominant one, but you'll see that I also draw on a couple of examples from Perplexity and Gemini as well. So a little recap of what the AI overview even is. Here's an example of a search that probably a few of us did recently when Donald Trump introduced those scary tariffs. Should I take my money out of the stock market? And you can see what looks like a normal Google search results page, but actually the top bit here is an AI overview that's generated by AI. And the bottom bit, those are the regular organic search results, the 10 blue links that we're used to seeing underneath. And AI overviews come up in a lot of different variations of Google search results, sometimes with featured snippets, sometimes also with ads underneath them as well. Google's goal here is essentially to answer the searcher's query inside the search result. And AI provides that answer, but it often has citation links. It sources its websites with that as well. So this is both an exciting opportunity and a slightly scary thing for many businesses that have been targeting top of the funnel types of keywords. Now, these AI overviews, over 96% of them appear on searches that have informational intent, as opposed to on transactional or commercial intent searches. So we're seeing them at that first point of research that people do when they're starting their search journey online. And these have already rolled out globally. So they initially launched in the US. In the UK, they launched for us in August 2024. They're extended to over 100 countries just a couple of months later. And then March 2025, they finally extended into a lot of EU regions, Germany, Italy, Switzerland, for example. The progress there was a little bit slow due to EU regulations on this generative AI stuff, but now we're seeing it pretty much across the world. They're also occurring on more and more searches. This is really recent data from SEMrush from this month, showing that actually AI overviews are appearing on 13% of all search queries. And they're more often than not on long tail queries. And what I mean by long tail is usually about 4 words or more in the search. So usually long tail, low difficulty informational queries. And we've also seen from October last year that Google has begun incorporating ads into some of its AI overviews. So that would look like sponsored products, and they're marked as sponsored in summaries for queries, and these tend to be ones that have slightly more commercial intent as well. But beyond just the AI overviews, even bigger changes are happening in search. These AI tools are in our phones, they're coming into our workspaces, our tech stacks, both for our personal life and for our work life searches as well. Here's an example of a personal search that someone might make. So this one is about skincare. So for example, I've got irritated skin, what should I do? These are the kinds of questions people are asking ChatGPT in their free time. And you can see here in the yellow highlight, it's actually recommending specific businesses, specific brands. So CeraVe in this one and La Roche-Posay. And then you can see further down the search, which is the best value hyaluronic acid. So once someone has actually got a little bit more commercial intent, they're searching that in ChatGPT too. They're having conversations to get to a solution. And you can see one of our clients at Exposure Ninja is referenced here. That's The Ordinary at the top. And they're also putting in citation links. Those links are not always directly to the business. So in this case, you can see it's health.com, not The Ordinary's own website. And this is part of how those algorithms are actually working in generative AI. Here's a totally different search. This is more of a work-related one, something that someone might actually run during their workday. So I need a task management software for my marketing agency. What would you recommend? And you can see here, it's actually recommending products in a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, and onwards. This snapshot on the right side of your screen, I've actually asked ChatGPT to show everything that's happening in its thought process, which you can do if you're on the O3 model of ChatGPT that you can see at the top of the screen there. And actually, it's bringing up so many searches. So instead of us just having to put one search into Google, ChatGPT's broken this down into multiple different search queries that it runs. It's chosen multiple different websites to reference. It's pretty much read all of the websites there, searched the web for a specific one. It's actually searched for ClickUp here. And then it's given me even more searches that it's done later on in its chain of processing. And it's doing lots of different things. It's unpicking my query beyond even the information that I'd given. So you can see here, it's actually looking for latest releases, not something I've specified, just something it's assumed that I've wanted in this query. And then it goes on to look for up-to-date reviews. Great, I would absolutely want that. And that's what most searchers would do. It's doing that on our behalf already. Then it's thinking about pain points. It's thinking about budget and whether it should actually ask me the question back. And then later on here, it's even noting that actually some of the AI features that are new on these tools probably aren't even that relevant. And it's discounted that without me even specifying. So it's already going through a much more advanced type of search than we're used to give answers. Let's have a look at e-commerce. Things have changed just this April. ChatGPT integrated a shopping experience. Really important to note, these are not ads. It's a shopping experience that happens with links then out to places that you can buy them, not an ad platform like Google Ads at this moment in time. Whether it will become, we don't yet know, but it's possible. And ChatGPT, the 8th most visited website in the world. This is changing everything. This is growing so rapidly, so quickly. Here you can see it on the graph. And it's also doing quirky things. People are finding fun ways to use ChatGPT, and that's making it a little bit more mainstream. So you might remember just in April, it added a new AI image generation feature, and this increased users by 1 million in the first hour of its launch. So here's an example. This was me speaking at the Web Performance Summit on this very topic back in March. And then here's the Studio Ghibli version of me. You will have seen the action figures, various other things that are actually moving many people towards ChatGPT for its searches. And then perhaps the biggest piece of news that we've seen recently is that Google's AI mode, which looks sort of akin to Gemini, but it's actually replacing search results as we know them, is already launched in labs for the whole of the US, for that North American region. So users there who are signed up to labs can actually test what this looks like by using Google's AI mode instead of using the normal Google search. A little bit of a precursor of probably the shift that we're seeing. The biggest question you'll probably got on your mind though here is this just all SEO? Is this all just search engine optimization in various different forms? So let me make it a little bit technical. Bear with me, it's only one slide if you're not a technical thinker. This is how generative engines, and when I say generative engines, I mean ChatGPT, Gemini, etc., actually working. That blue figure on the left, that's us, that's the user. The query we put in, it then gets reformulated. So it gets broken down into lots of different queries to try and pull out exactly what that user wants. Then it gets run through a search engine. And as we know, you get thousands of results on a search engine. It goes through a summarizing model, a response model, and then it actually just creates a nice pattern of text to match the answer that the question that had been asked into a really good answer, and it outputs it back to the user. The really interesting thing is this part doesn't always need to happen. So for some searches, a search engine isn't used, and instead the generative engines can answer based on their underlying training data. Now, if you're super interested in this, you can go to the GEO article, GEO being generative engine optimization, that's published on Archive, one of the first academic papers that came out about what is happening with generative engines and search and how they actually work on a technical level. This essentially means, if all of that went over your head, generative engines are trained on different data. Each of them is trained on different data. They have different search capabilities and they give different outputs. They're not the same as the Google search results. The top 10 on Google, the top 10 on Bing, that's not going to reflect what you see in ChatGPT and other Gen AI engines when you make the same search. So at this point, you might be thinking, oh my goodness, this seems like a lot going on. How fast is it really growing? Do we really need to take any action? Google's still the dominant player with its 140 billion searches that are actually happening. But I think there's a big risk here. And I just want to flag that. Here's what AI outputted as the image of people who might bury their heads in the sand, continue thinking only about those traditional Google search results, rather than thinking about AI search, which is not dominant yet, but growing. The first thing I would say is think back to the early 90s when the internet first launched. Early adopters back then who actually took businesses online, started new businesses or moved old businesses online, dominated entire industries. There was less competition at that time. There was a massive first mover advantage, and businesses who ignored it suffered. We might think of Toys R Us, Blockbuster. Both of those failed to actually transition online, and their businesses massively, massively suffered as a result of it. There are many other businesses who became obsolete in that advent of the internet. This is the new internet. AI search is this next change, and there is again a huge first mover advantage for people who start thinking about it now. Search doesn't just mean Google anymore. AI will change our search habits. It's already changing them. We already know that people search on more platforms than just Google when they're making a purchasing decision. They're thinking about Reddit, Quora, TikTok if they're younger, Instagram, YouTube. All sorts of search engines are involved, and ChatGPT and the generative AI ones are now taking that space. And these platforms are not using the same ranking signals. So you can't just do SEO as you've known it and hope that you're going to do well in ChatGPT, that you're going to be referenced in the way you want to in Gemini, which leads to the biggest, the juiciest part of this webinar, which is how you actually capitalize on AI-driven search trends. What are the winning strategies? And there are strategies to optimize for this. So my agency that I work for, Exposure Ninja, we led some of the very early research into what to do in the advent of generative AI engines, how to optimize for them, how businesses can get referenced, how they can adjust their positioning to be seen how they want to be. Here's an example of one of our early AI overview experiments on our own website. So this one is a very top of funnel term. What is digital PR? And you can see that we've owned the AI overview there. This is referenced directly from this link on the right from our website, and that image is also our image as well. And here's the article that gets referenced. So one of the things we changed to get the AI overview was a rewrite of our introductory paragraph. And it sounds simple, in this case it is, making it really clear, making it easy for AI to understand and match the pattern of text to the query that's being asked. And you'll see actually AI overviews, they don't pull exact match text. This text here is not the same as what's written on the blog. They're creating its own slightly different nuanced version and using that information from our blog to do it. Here's another example, how are mortgage payments calculated? Totally different industry. Here's our client DSLD Mortgage on the right. We optimized one of their pages specifically to try and appear in AI overviews on mortgage payment calculations and related search terms. So you can see that they're linked on how to determine this loan amount. And we did that through this blog post on their website, through restructuring some of the content, updating the schema, using really clear key takeaway bullet point lists that actually answered user questions within our text. So how you actually rank in AI overviews? Extremely close matching information for what you publish and the phrase, the questions that you're actually trying to rank for. Simple information with high readability. It's great for AI because it understands simple information that's well structured, but it's also great for humans. That's also how we like to read information online. We want to get to the point quickly. And giving the user the information they need quickly on the page. So not burying it down the bottom of your blog post, down the bottom of your service page, but actually giving it in a very prominent place. And already ranking the regular organic search results. If you're trying to grab an AI overview for a specific phrase, you already need to be in the top 10 to have a chance, an opportunity for going for it. So this is what is known as the classic SEO as we think of it now. And you have to already be playing hard in SEO to be thinking about how to do Gen AI. So let's talk a little more about how we can influence other types of Gen AI search. So not just the AI overviews, but ChatGPT. The first one is dominating for your target keywords. You need this first. Here's an example of one of our clients, The Ordinary, a fantastic client of ours who wanted to focus on their hyaluronic acid. So we first worked on their normal SEO. We grabbed the AI overview for this as well through our optimizations. You can see they're referenced multiple times here. But this also later gets reflected in the work that we've done in ChatGPT as well. So we're asking about which is the best value hyaluronic acid. They're the top result here. We've also asking a variation of that question, which one is best? Same sort of question written differently. The Ordinary again, very highly ranked in there. And then the last one, where should I buy it? Again, first option is The Ordinary. This resulted in huge sales growth for this product. And this is a joined up strategy across traditional SEO, across content, and across what we call generative engine optimization, or GEO, which is how you optimize for AI search in ChatGPT and other Gen AI engines. Here's a totally different example. So if skincare's got nothing to do with you, here's one about weed killer for lawns. Here's a client of ours who are actually quoted specifically on an AI overview about the best spurge weed killer. If you want your lawn to look pristine, I highly recommend Golf Course Lawn Store because they are the absolute leaders in this industry. And you can see that they're referenced here. Their blog is coming up on that carousel as well. Switch into ChatGPT, and then you can see if you put in a similar sort of search term, they're also getting referenced. And this kind of information was given in a very interesting way. So in an actual table, ChatGPT's actually prepared a table for the searcher to make it easy to compare what they need to do. And then it cited Golf Course Lawn as one of the important articles to read on this topic. So number 2, reviews, data and statistics. ChatGPT and other Gen AI engines love to actually use data and statistics in their examples. You can see that in the output here, which is DSLD a good mortgage provider? The short answer to this is yes. But what actually gets referenced is lots of third-party review sites. So their 4.9 star rating, a different 5-star rating, and then an A+ rating on the Better Business Bureau. So they're looking, the AI engines are looking for evidence in multiple website sources to see if this is a good mortgage provider. And those third-party reviews and ratings are very important to doing well in Gen AI. Here's a totally different example. This one is about Unilever and whether they use microplastics. They didn't have much original data. They don't have that many reviews because their site isn't directly selling these things. Instead, what gets referenced is a 2022 study. And this is a recent search from 2025 from the Plastic Soup Foundation, not even related to Unilever. So in this instance, Gen AI has decided it would rather use information from a completely different source than Unilever itself because it thinks that data is most interesting to the searcher. So the last and probably one of the biggest and maybe frustratingly big influencing factors is PR and getting features on third-party websites beyond just reviews. Now, we think of PR in SEO as just grabbing backlinks. PR, when it comes to AI search, is much bigger than that. Gen AI cares about a lot more platforms. It looks much more widely across the web to understand how businesses are actually doing and what to say about them. So this is one of our clients, Zugu Case, and they sell very nice iPad cases. When they released their iPad Air case, we got them featured in this ZDNet article. The very next day, Perplexity put Zugu Case top for the best iPad Air cases. And that's a pretty quick turnaround. It won't always be that quick. It's going to depend on how competitive your industry is and how good your website already is looking, how well your products are already referenced. But it's an example that actually it's all to play for in AI search. This isn't a game that only the big businesses can play. This is a game that everyone can actually take advantage of. You think that's a fluke example? Here's another one. Best overall folio case. This is Wired magazine, and at the top they feature our client Zugu case again, because their folio case is actually the best. And then you can see Gemini Advanced, actually a couple of days later, what is the best iPad folio case, and here's Zugu at the top. It's not the only answer that's given. You can see Logitech, Apple, they're also referenced, but this Wired article has made such a difference. They're collecting more and more PR stories, and they're seeing more and more visibility in ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity for the kinds of search terms that they actually care about. So you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, this is quite fluffy. How are we going to measure this? How am I going to take this to my boss? How are we actually going to see what's going on? For AI overviews and generative engine tracking is quite complicated. There's no direct rankings like the traditional version of SEO, where we think of how well a keyword is, how well we're performing for a keyword. Are we position 1, 2, 3? But there are some useful metrics that can be tracked, and I've got a bit of a short list here. Target keywords with AI overview features. You can track this in SEMrush, or you can count it manually. Referral traffic from AI search engines is a big one. You can set this up in your GA4, or if you use Looker Studio reports, you can also do it in there. Conversions also from AI search traffic, again, you can use this in GA4. Traffic sources, also a very interesting one to do. So you can see what's coming from ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, also in GA4. And we are very lucky that there are now some tools for brand sentiment and citation frequency within Gen AI engines, so within ChatGPT and Gemini, etc. And there's a great business called tryprofound.com who do this on a very, very large scale. So for AI overviews, here's an example inside SEMrush of how you can do this. You can just search for your own URL, so this one, root domain DSLD mortgage, filter this by keywords where that domain ranks with an AI overview, and this little flower icon that you're seeing there, that's indicating an AI overview. If you're thinking, I've never used SEMrush, you can head to thankyouninjas.com and you can get a free trial just to have a look at how this works and track down what AI overviews you've already got. And then you'll be able to have a look, how many have I got now? How many have I got later? This is one of our tracking of AI overviews for one of our own clients about how they started Q1 and then how they ended by the end of Q2 after a focus on dominating for AI overviews for specific search queries. AI traffic and conversions. So at Exposure Ninja, we build custom reports for some of our clients. And this is an example of a Looker Studio report that shows what's happening with AI over time. And perhaps most interesting here is actually the trend that we're seeing. So this tracking started all the way back in June 2024, when ChatGPT and these engines started exploding onto the scene. And slowly over time, we're seeing these huge increases, very similar to what we're seeing when we were talking about, ChatGPT's overall visitor traffic and searches going up. This AI traffic is increasing over time. And if you've got Looker Studio set up, you can also filter in your traffic split and your conversion split. So you can see here, ChatGPT for this business is really dominant. More than 50% of the traffic from AI engines for this client is from ChatGPT, and 100% of the conversions that this client has seen through AI platforms is from ChatGPT as well. That really helps you to hone in on the ones that you want to concentrate on. And then the tool I mentioned earlier, which is called Profound at tryprofound.com, does very, very in-depth analytics and analysis of citations, sentiment, competitor comparisons across your industry, topical areas, to understand how a business is actually performing. This tool, I would say, is much more calibrated towards enterprise and large businesses who really need to be on top of this. And you can see in the screenshots here, it gives you a very good rating of positive, negative. So you can look at the areas that the business needs to work on in order to shift how ChatGPT and other generative engines actually talk about the brand and what they need to do. And it also has a great co-pilot feature, which I love, because it essentially moves all of the huge amount of data that it collects, the millions and, well, thousands of queries that it runs, into different recommended actions, breaks it down, top 5 actions. This example is what Vanguard, it recommends that they need to do in order to appear really well in Gen AI searches. Which leads me pretty much to the end of the presentation. So a couple of actionable takeaways that I'd like to leave you with. The first is building your SEO strategies to incorporate AI search. You need to be doing SEO to even be on the playing field when it comes to AI search and generative engine optimization. It's the basis of your website. It's the basis of how search works. The second is setting KPIs and updating your Google Analytics reporting or Looker Studios, if you use those, to clearly show traffic from generative AI. This is incredibly important. Otherwise, you'll have no idea if what you're doing is working, and it helps you to actually focus in on the areas and the Gen AI engines that are making a difference to your business, and probably gives you a little bit of an idea of whether now is the time to start investing for your business. And the third is integrating PR, data, statistics, quotes into all of your website content. So both the content you're trying to optimize for Google, but also for what you're trying to optimize in AI search engines as well. And probably most important is to expect and prepare for continued increases in AI search. This is not going away, and it's a huge risk to hope that it will. All of the data, all of the trend is showing that AI search habits are just increasing. So I'm going to leave you with a lovely quote from Alison, who is one of our clients over at The Ordinary, about our brand. We help medium and enterprise companies to dominate and scale through search marketing. That's SEO, Google Ads, and it's Gen AI search. And if you would like to find out more about what we do or ask me questions directly, you can head over to exposureninja.com.
Thank you, Charlie. That was really, really useful. I've made like 4 pages worth of notes when I said, even though I said to everybody at the start, don't worry about the notes, you'll get the recordings. I've come through. It's like, oh my God, so many bits.
Glad to hear it.
I want to apologise to everybody for the technical issues we had. We live and learn, so we'll learn from that one. That's for sure. We've actually fixed it now, so we know what was happening, so next time we'll all be good. Everybody on the line, so I've already got questions coming through. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to submit some more. Charlie, I am going to try and make some sense of them so I don't ask you stuff constantly back and forth, but I might not be able to do it because
no problem.
There's at least a dozen that have just come through while you were talking and everything.
We can make sense of them together. And just for everyone, there are no stupid questions, so please feel free to ask anything. Nothing is stupid.
In that case, I'm gonna go through them and we'll cover them off. And apologies if you've already answered them in the slides as well, but I think it's always good to reiterate sometimes. So the first one I've got is around. I've got somebody saying, does it mean that if we're not doing the query, i.e. the user has not asked chat to search online, that the user could still receive outdated information?
It depends. So I think there's a big worry about generative AI engines and whether they're giving outdated information. And the answer is sometimes they do. And this is because they have different data sets. So some of them have access to live search results and some of them don't. ChatGPT does, for example, and it's believed that it uses Bing for its live search results when it's searching. Gemini, of course, uses Google. They're different. Some of them don't have access to search engines, so they're using their original data set from a couple of years ago. But you can still get outdated answers. This is particularly the case if you're doing nothing with SEO. So if you're not updating your own website's content, things like the About page, they get referenced a lot more than you would think in ChatGPT and Gen AI. So it's really important to have it up to date. And the same if you've got PR articles that perhaps don't represent your business quite as you'd like to be, or maybe don't have quite accurate information, those might also get referenced as well in generative AI. So the answer is yes, but you can also start shifting that by making sure that you're doing really good work on your on-site content and your off-site PR.
Cool. There's another in relation to that. I think it's in relation to how long it retains it or how quickly does it update it. So if I'm indexed, but I don't necessarily like what it's saying, I've got here.
Yeah.
How it's interpreted, because you showed that one where it's taken it from here, but it said something not right, or well, it said it differently. Not that it wasn't right, but is there have we seen? Is it quick to rectify itself? Can you ask it to say, God, it's spelled this wrong, or it's taken this context completely inaccurate, can you say, please just out somehow? Basically, Charlie, you've got a backdoor key to Gemini, or
Oh, sadly not, everyone. I wish that I had that for you. The answer to this is, if the information is all update and correct on your own website and in all of the websites that reference you, you've got the best chance of getting the kind of result that you want out of Gen AI. There is no way for you to correct Gen AI. There is no point having a big long conversation with generative AI about how it's correct, because it won't take that into its database to affect other searches. One thing that you can do is most of them have a downward thumb. So if you think information is incorrect, you can hit that. Whether it works, I unfortunately can't tell you. That's up to the developers behind every one of these engines. The things that you can do, sentiment is a really, really big topic, and how it talks about your business. So for example, if ChatGPT calls you cheap and you're like, I'm a premium product, that's the kind of thing that businesses are focused on shifting. And part of doing GEO, generative engine optimization work, is to be able to shift that to make sure it's showing you in the way that you want to be seen. The Ordinary is actually a fantastic example of this. They've been doing a PR campaign for years, long before this even started, and they have nailed their positioning. So the positioning that they go after is best value skincare and science-backed skincare, and you will see thousands of articles about it, Reddit threads about it across the globe, because that's what they've really honed in on doing. And if your business actually has got confusing signals out there that are like, well, sometimes it's a bit cheap, oh well, it's kind of premium, particularly if a business is transitioning from one to the other, which we see quite a lot as businesses move in their life cycle. So that might be something you see about your business because you're trying to target a new kind of audience or customer persona. You actually need to start updating content online and doing PR that really targets the positioning that you want, because generative AI is pattern matching that. So if it's sitting best science-backed skincare, best value skincare, and it's seeing features in articles about that, it's going to start processing it. It's going to start updating the content to represent that brand in that way. If you send out loads of signals and it gets really confused because you're trying to target 10, 15 different positioning statements or USPs, you're probably going to get sort of garbled answers back that you're not really happy with.
Consistency is the name of the game, then.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We've got a question. Well, I don't know if it's a question or a statement, but someone has said, or Dominic, if you're still there, is it still short SEO that wins the day? I'm
short
not too sure.
SEO?
Yes.
I'm not sure exactly what that means. Okay. I guess if the question might be about whether short terms versus long tail keywords make a difference. And one of the big shifts we've seen is that people will ask ChatGPT in much longer queries than they would ever put into Google. So for example, if you're looking for a therapist, you might just put into Google best therapist for whatever, supporting my mental health. If you're talking to ChatGPT, you might be like, I'm going through a really long divorce, I'm really struggling with the breakup, there's all these things going on, and my mental health's really suffering, I've got a really intense job. People pour all of that stuff into ChatGPT whilst they're asking the question of like, I think I could do with the support of a therapist, could you recommend some in my area? So actually, in generative AI, it often has a lot more context about what the user is searching for. And it will be, as you saw with all of the breakdown of the different searches it did for me on quite a simple work management query, it will do that to give more all-encompassing advice. But in terms of SEO, when we're looking at keywords, it tends to be shorter keywords. So best therapist, for example, best therapist in Nottingham, let's say, is higher commercial intent than that very top of the funnel search that's giving all of the context, because actually we think someone's probably got more commercial intent. They've done further in their research. They know that they definitely want a therapist at this stage, and they're actually going to find one. So short SEO, I think the answer is a lot of the commercial terms are still short, but they're asking longer and longer tail keywords and searches to actually get there in the end.
It is almost becoming like a companion as such, isn't it?
Yeah,
as it
is.
How you're talking to
it is becoming our therapists.
Charlie, I'm going to ask if you can just take your screen share off, and then everybody can see you almost full screen, if that makes sense. So we've got one. This is an interesting one. So is the AI overview purely based on GEO, or is there any way
that we can pay money to get up there is asking. So are there paid options, do we know?
Sorry, everyone. AI overviews at the moment is only organic. So you're only getting there through really good optimization of your content, all of the points that I covered around targeting the keywords that you really, really want to get to. At the moment, no option to just pay to be in the AI overview.
That's surely not going to last for too long, is it?
Sure,
Google and are going to monetize it somehow.
my general feeling is that all of these AI engines will eventually be monetized, and probably one of the reasons they've not fully rolled out to replace the 10 blue links we're used to is because they haven't yet figured out how to monetize them, and they want to be sure that users trust them and that they would actually trust clicking on ads from AI before they do it.
Okay. This one, I don't think you touched upon this in your talk at all, but I got somebody saying, how does it work geographically? So they said they've noticed chat in the UK versus chat in Czech, for example, will give different results for the same prompts.
Yeah, it will. The same how Google search results, if you're looking for best marketing agency in Nottingham, best marketing agency in London, you're going to get different results, even if you don't put in the modifier of where you're located, because your location is already on. In ChatGPT, if you allow it to remember, which it will do by default, so if you allow it to remember your previous searches, it will find out where you're based eventually, because you're probably going to share something, and because it knows the region. So you'll get different search results for different things, and eventually it will, the more you use it, so if you've been using ChatGPT for a good few months, it will give you different results. So Simon and I would get different results because it's personalizing them. And that includes location, but not just location. It will know information about our backgrounds. It knows the kinds of answers we're happy with, the kinds of brands that we buy from. It's becoming like a personal assistant. If you're like, this is horrible and I don't want any of that, turn off memory in ChatGPT.
Oh my God, I'm going to get worried now. We're getting a number of questions around. So I've got one here. It says, are the impressions are most likely, are AIO impressions a most likely outcome for SEO or GEO? And should we prime clients to focus less on clicks and traffic? I'm getting a load of questions around, I think it's more of the reporting side of it. Actually, if people are we're not going to see clicks back in GA, but I know you covered a bit around the GA and so forth. But I guess from a traditional marketer, we're all about the clicks and seeing
Totally.
it. So that's, I guess, going to be tested in this AI piece. If you're getting the information, you're not necessarily clicking off, you may be going direct and so forth. So that attribution modeling might be a bit different.
I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, we're all marketers here, right? And all of our clients want to know the progress, how they're doing, how organic search is going, all of those things. And one of the big conversations in SEO right now is 0-click searches. So those ones where there's AI overviews, people might not click at all. And quite often they don't click. So some of the concern that is coming is around these top of funnel keywords that AI overviews show for. So I mentioned around 96% of AI overviews are on really informational searches. So the what is digital PR? That's not a money term. Exposure Ninja is not going to make money from someone searching for what is digital PR. They could be doing all sorts of research in that time. It's very, very, very top of funnel. So mostly people are seeing from their websites, and our clients are seeing from their websites, a lot of clicks in those top of funnel terms. One of the reasons that it's important to still go after the AI overview, though, is brand stickiness. If your business is featured there and you're doing lots of related top of funnel searches as a user, you're going to see the same brand appearing time and time again. Sometimes people will click those citation links as well. They want to research further. They're more interested. They want to read the full article. That will happen, but probably less so than we're used to from the 10 blue links. One of the interesting things we've seen, though, is because we're not getting all of that traffic through from very, very top of the funnel searches, we're actually still continuing to see good traffic from those sort of mid and bottom of the funnel searches. So our clients, though their total traffic is a little bit lower because the clicks are a little bit lower, the traffic they have is really qualified, and the conversion rates are still good. They've still maintained similar conversions out of the end result. So my advice is don't panic too hard about the AI overviews, because most of the time it's top of funnel types of search. And if you've got a really strong SEO content, GEO strategy, that is focusing on middle and bottom of the funnel terms, you're still going to see returns for your client. Most importantly, do report on traffic. You should absolutely report on total traffic, but I would say make sure you're actually attributing total conversions that have come from organic and have organic touch points in order to report on that as well.
Perfect, Charlie. We're getting, again, there's loads more questions coming in, but there's a lot in here saying thank you. This has been really useful.
My pleasure.
And as I said at the start, they're all saying they've got a list as long as their arm to
go I love that.
So I think the content you've delivered has been great. I've got one here from Gemma saying, with Google and Gemini being the same product, should we expect that SEO efforts, Google first, would have better results than, say, Gemini and on chat and competitive platforms, if that makes sense? I guess it's thinking, I had one around how on earth do you mentioned that they all take their algorithms are all different, they all take it differently. So how can you plan and strategize to say, how do I make sure I'm on chat, on Gemini, on DeepSeek, and I know kind of thing. So I guess they pick Google being the big player in Gemini. Is there any way of making sure that you're Gemini first focused or anything along those lines, do we think?
Couple of things here, I think. Firstly, the way that you think about which ones are most important to pay attention to, because otherwise you're going to be trying to look at a million platforms and it's going to become such a headache. Everyone's got, tight budget, tight resource. You're going to have to justify why you're looking at Grok and whatnot. So I would say the reporting I mentioned, tracking your sources and seeing which ones actually bring you the most traffic and conversions is a really good place to start. The majority of businesses, it's going to be ChatGPT. And that's because ChatGPT at the moment is the most dominant player. It's more used than Google's Gemini. So when we're talking about Google, I'm talking about normal Google search in this presentation, not Gemini. They are owned by Google, but their product's working separately for now. So whether it will integrate it into Google search later, we don't definitely know. In terms of once you've actually got a focused platform, and maybe for some people that will be Gemini, particularly if you usually work with B2B, and actually a lot of people might have Gemini integrated into their Google Workspace, and so therefore that might be your number one. I would just say the easiest way is to do lots of searches about your brand to try and understand what that specific platform's saying, why it's saying it, how you want to be seen, what it's not saying, when it's not referencing your business. That's probably the biggest one people care about, and why, and then actually start to unpick from there. It's going to be a similar set of factors to what I shared before, but you'll find that different types of publications and PR have different weightings, different ways of actually getting your reviews, which sites it looks at most. It's gonna be slightly nuanced between them, but the overall theory is pretty similar.
You mentioned in your talk that this is like a level playing field, and we've got a couple of people not debating that, but they're arguing what advice would you give to small businesses? Where do they start? How do they have to write lots of content to kind of try and get it indexed? It's a kind of the same old discussion, isn't it, of the kind of output to what you might what gets picked up. I guess some people are interested in that, and they're saying, I've got one around here which is it's almost like a risk. Like if you're using AI to generate your content, will the AI platform pick up on that and maybe penalize you for it in the searches or something? It's kind of how do we get out like catch-22 kind of scenario?
Maybe. There's almost two questions in here. The first is, do you need to create reams of content in order to do well in generative AI? And the answer to that is no. What you need to do is create really good content that's well written, researched, ideally has first-person opinions, first-person data if you can get it. If your company holds a lot of data or does a lot of research reports or could do, that's a great way to get your content noticed. So you should focus on doing content very targeted to the kinds of phrases and positioning you care about and putting that out there in the world, rather than trying to compete and create like a million articles like Wikipedia. You're not going to be the Wikipedia. There's no need. The second question is, if you use generative AI engines like ChatGPT to produce your content, will you do okay? And this is also a bit of a nuanced answer. If you just say, here, write me a blog post about this, and then you post it on the internet, it's fresh out of ChatGPT, I can tell you now it will do terribly and it's going to do badly for your website. That's just lazy content writing, and ultimately lazy SEO and lazy content gets us nowhere. If you use ChatGPT very well, you've programmed it with your branding, your positioning, the examples of your tone of voice, examples of successful articles, the keywords that you want to do really well for, and you ask it to help you structure an article, that could probably be helpful. You're probably going to get a better structure. Then you write something, then you put it through to actually help make that more concise. You think you've written something wordy, and you're going through a workflow to actually produce a really good piece of content at the end. And you've got a strong editor. So I always recommend having an editor look at anything that comes out of ChatGPT, because when we're writing content ourselves, it's really difficult to notice the kinds of mistakes that we make. The same as anyone writing a book or writing anything would always have someone else check it, because you become blind to your own work eventually. Having a strong editor who knows SEO actually check it, you could probably produce very good content that's better than other pieces of content by having Gen AI in your workflow. But there's a big difference between using it in a workflow versus just spitting things out of it.
Yeah, cautionary tale there. Don't be lazy.
It is a cautionary tale.
Yeah. So we've still got people staying on, so I've got a couple more questions, so we'll go through them. I'd like to know an answer to this as well. Is there any way we can find out what queries people are typing into chat, so we can then try and match the wording that they're after, or the key phrasing? It used to be like the keyword search in Google, where they would show you what was being searched. Oh, well, they've been that ages ago, but is there anything that's coming through on the likes of SEMrush or so forth that shows the kind of queries or the searches that are happening?
Alas, unfortunately not. So this doesn't yet exist for Gen AI. We can't see exactly what kind of searches there have been or what kind of queries there are. I hope that it will happen eventually, because it would make life a lot easier for marketers if it did. So generally the best way is probably to generate using a tool, as you might do for keyword research, to understand what kind of phrases do come up. Because if you're just thinking, if we're a company that sells CRM software, you're thinking, what kind of things are people going to search before they actually do this? They'll be looking for best CRM software that has time tracking, CRM software that does call outs, whatever it is. There's a million types of things. And actually keyword research, though it isn't used for generative AI, it's not how they work. It can help you to understand, the same way as you would usually do keyword research, what kinds of thing people will ask, because what people ask is only changing in the sense it's becoming longer. They've still got the same queries ultimately at the end of the day. So I would say you don't probably need to stray too far away from keyword research to know what people are asking. But in answer to the question, sadly not. I pray for the day, and I pray to the SEMrush gods that they will manage to develop a tool that does this.
I'm going to do one more question, Charlie, and I'm going to let you go, and I'll let everybody else go. I've got a couple of questions around, you showed third-party reviews in your slides, and there's 3 or 4 people saying, do you know if there are any that are weighted more in AI search than others? So should they concentrate on G2 or Trustpilot or Captera? Does it matter, kind of thing? Any advice on that?
I have to say it depends on the sector in the industry. My first port of call would always be actually searching, your business name. Is my business a good business? Some sorts of queries about the reputation to see what it actually references, because it will, then you'll know. If it says, you've got 77 4.7 reviews on Trustpilot, right? It's referencing Trustpilot and it doesn't care about G2. But from what I have seen in our research, Clutch is one of the more referenced ones that I've actually seen in AI engines. Yeah, I'll leave you with that.
There we go. No, well,
not Charlie, affiliated in any way with Clutch.
Thank you very much, Charlie. For everybody that's still on, if you don't mind, Charlie, we will export all the questions, and if there are any in there that you think are good to answer, because I said we'll do a blog write-up and so forth, so we might do like the FAQ piece. So, but to everybody else on, we will send you a recording. Obviously, we will cut out all the technical issues that we had. We will send you the recording of the session. You'll get a copy of the slides. You'll have the Q&A that we've just done. And I will leave you all to either go and enjoy the sunny afternoon or to go and bury your head in the sand underneath a Google sign, just like Charlie showed. I'm thinking, what on earth are we going to do?
What are we going to do now?
We will also, in the follow-up, we'll make sure you got Charlie's details if you want to contact Exposure Ninja to talk about some more follow-up on the piece, on anything that they might be able to help you with. Obviously, if anybody on the line is interested in marketing automation software, please come and say hello to Spotler. We'd love to show you the tools and the products that we've got available to her and help you make more money or save more money like I showed you at the start. But for now, definitely tea time. A cup of tea is worth it, and a biscuit to go and digest all those notes that we've made. So thank you very much, Charlie, and have a great day.
Amazing. Thanks for having me.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.